You would think that storing dates in your database would be a fairly straightforward routine operation. Luckily, on the surface, to you and I, it is. But behind the scenes, Access does a lot of work to make sure that your date-specific records are kept in order. Understanding how Access stores, retrieves, and formats date and time-based data can really help down the road, and there are lots of functions built in that deal specifically with dates and times. First, let's take a look at how Access stores dates. I've got a couple of tables here. This first one here just says dates on it, and if I double-click on it, we can see the data that's inside. Here we just have a random collection of dates, and they go back in time, all the way back into the 1700s. Let's go ahead and close this table. I also have a table here of times. Let's go ahead and double-click on that. Here I have a listing of times, and most of these are to the hour, but if I scroll down, I also have some times that are down to the minute here. Now what I want to do is explore how Access is storing this information in our data tables. Let's go ahead and close the times table. Down below, I've got two queries here that are set up to modify the information that we have stored in the dates and the times table. If I right-click on the date serial table and go into Design View, we can see what we have. The first column is just going to display the date information that's straight out of the dates table. The second column here uses a function called cdbl or cdouble to modify our dates value. What this function is going to do is it's going to reveal how Access is actually storing our date-based data. Let's go ahead and run this query to see what happens. Here we can see our dates column, and here's the modified result of that function. Now we've gone ahead and sorted these dates from newest to oldest, so they go back in time. At the top is today's date. This is the date that I'm recording this movie. And we can see the way that Access is storing this information inside of its database. For instance, today's date gets the serial number 41,795. If we go back in time, we can see that these serial numbers are decreasing. In the 1960s, it was 22,000. In the 1940s, it was 17,000. Going back in time further, we get into the 19-teens, it's 4,000. Down to 1901, we're in the hundreds. And if we get down in here to 12/30/1899, we can see that that has a date serial number of 0. Any days after that date get counted up as a single day. So the next day, December 31st, 1899, is serial number 1. The next day, which is New Year's Day, 1900, is serial number 2. And we count up from 12/30/1899 all the way to the present day here. Now, days before 12/30/1899 get negative numbers. So the day before, December 29th, 1899, is -1. And as we get further away from our 0 day, the numbers continue to decrease. This is how Access is storing dates in our database. It's just converting every date into a serial number. This makes it easy to convert dates, or to add or subtract or compare dates. Let's go ahead and take a look at how we deal with time values. Let's go ahead and close this date serial query here. And let's open up the query called time serial. I'll just double-click on it to run it. This query uses the same function to convert these time values into the serial number. Now, if days are represented by whole numbers, then it makes sense that times are represented by fractions. And we can see that the time 12 midnight is represented by 0.000. This is where our day starts. As we move away from midnight, for instance, this row is 12 midnight and 1 second, we can see that the serial number that represents that time is 0.000012. If we get to the halfway point in our day, that would be 12 noon. Here, we can see that we're halfway through the day, so that makes sense that it's 0.5. A quarter of the way through the day would be 6 a.m. That's represented by 0.25. 3/4 of the way through the day is 6 p.m., so 0.75. And 11:59 and 59 seconds is represented by 0.999988. So we're almost to midnight. Now, because Access stores dates as whole numbers and times as fractions of the number, we can sometimes get in a little bit of trouble if we try and compare values that store both a date and a time in the same field. Let me show you what I mean. When comparing dates together, if you have a field that just stores the date value, then it's pretty straightforward. Let's go ahead and compare these 3 dates, May 11, May 12, and May 13, to the day of May 12. You can see that logically it makes sense that May 11 is before or less than May 12th, and May 12th is equal to May 12th, and May 13th is after or greater than May 12th. So that makes perfect sense. The problem comes in when we start mixing in time-based data into our date values. If we try and compare a field that's storing both a date and a time to a field that's just storing a date, logically it starts to get a little bit confusing. For instance, if we compare May 11th and 11:59 and 59 seconds to the date of May 12th, logically that makes sense that that day is before May 12th. If we compare May 12 at 12 a.m. on the dot, that is equal to the day of May 12th. If we move 1 second past midnight, so May 12, 12 a.m. and 1 second, Access considers that to be after May 12. So if we're comparing our date-based values, we need to make sure that we understand whether we're storing dates or dates and times together in a single field. So understanding the serial nature of how Access stores dates can clear up some evaluations down the road. And it's always a good idea to understand what's going on behind the scenes in order to make better sense of how we can work with that on the front end.